just want to know.
Yeah.
Shooting from Higher Power Studios.
Yeah.
For more information on that, but higherpower.net, higher, H-E-Y-E-R, power.net.
Yes.
So, Karmel, I was researching public speaking recently.
Okay.
And I just found out that over 75% of Americans have a fear of public speaking.
Wow.
Which equates to 238 million people.
Dang.
So I just want to know, because you are a professional stand-up comedian.
Yes. Something like that.
How did you get your career started, and how did you overcome that fear? Was it ever a fear for you?
So to that question, no.
Okay.
I grew up always being on stage. As early as I can remember, I remember being in church, and I think I was probably 8. And my mom would have me memorize scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just fascinated how fast I could remember long verses. And one time at church, she said, "Hey, Pastor, can you have Karmel go up and recite a scripture?" And he's like a whole scripture? Like, I knew the whole chapter. I went up in front of everyone and just off the dome just recited this whole chapter.
Wow.
And I had no fear. I didn't even think about it. I just, I'm going to go do it. And I think it was more about me showing off that I memorized the scripture. And then that kind of progressed into me doing plays. And so I did a lot of church plays. I think every year I was in some kind of Christmas play or Easter play or whatever. And then in high school, college, it just kind of transformed into like me being in front of people. And so I always kind of had a knack for telling jokes.
Mm-hmm.
In 6th grade, I remember getting locked out of class, and some friends asked me to tell some jokes, just like random. "Yo, come on, tell some jokes." I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, like you do, like they do on TV."
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing like Bob Hope or like Bill Cosby. I'm, "Oh, okay." And so I got up in front of my class and just started telling jokes.
So from the 6th grade, people were just like, "Hey, you need to go tell jokes."
Yeah.
So then you had to be naturally funny to begin with.
Yeah, I was always like, I hate saying class clown, but I like to say most funny.
Right.
Because I wasn't able to just like doing stupid stuff, jumping off of tables and like, smacking myself. But I always was kind of clever and could see the funny in things.
Mm-hmm.
And even when my friend asked me that, I remember thinking, what the hell am I going to say? Like I was thinking about material, which is interesting. I was thinking, I didn't just get up and just start telling jokes. Like I got up and said, okay, what can I say that's going to make them laugh? What are some, because comedy at the end of the day is relative. That's the biggest thing for me. So it's something we can all relate to. So I remember getting up, and in like the seconds it took me to walk from the area we were standing to like this little like walkway where I was kind of just above them.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about material. Like, what am I going to say in the next 5 minutes? And I got laughs, which is funny. Like I was really thinking this could end my career as being the funny kid.
6th grade.
Right? 6th grade. Like if I'm not funny right now, I'm never going to be the funny kid anymore. And it worked. Like I got laughs. People were like, "Oh, man, Karmel's funny, yada, yada." Funny story about that class. So that class I was in was what's called GATE.
Okay.
Gifted and Talented Education. So I was in like a separate class of kids that were like the nerds.
But it wasn't for, obviously it wasn't for acting or performing
No,
arts.
just kids who were, I guess, smarter or different than other kids.
Okay.
And then that teacher kind of taught differently. It was kind of a very more not as traditional. And I kind of took advantage of that. So like I would just tell jokes during class and I was acting a fool, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And one day my teacher asked me, kind of just stopped me in my tracks from telling jokes, whatever. She's just pissed off. She said, "Karmel, do you want to be a comedian or something?" And I said, "Yeah." And she got so mad. Just got
I could imagine.
Oh my God. And then like,
but you weren't even being a smart ass.
I wasn't. I was being so honest. And then she just took me straight to the principal's office, sat me down. I was like, oh my God, like what's going to happen? Because my mom is going to find out. And my mom was just not the one to have to come to the school for. And sure enough, they called her, and then like she comes storming down the hall, and I just was like, "Oh my God, what's gonna happen?" She didn't yell at me, didn't say anything to me, just picked me up, started walking me back to class. And as we're walking back to class, I realized in her other hand she had a belt.
Oh, okay.
So we get back to class, and she proceeds to give me a spanking in front of everybody.
Wow.
I mean, I'd rather bombed. I would rather have not told good jokes a few weeks ago than to have that happen.
You know, on a real side note, I don't want to get off too far off track. So first, when I remember the recruiter story that you told me, where your mom drove straight to the recruiting office and said, "Hell no, my son's not going to go in." Now you try to be a comedian, your mom whoops your ass in front of everybody.
Right.
What career did she want you to have?
Strangely enough, she wanted me to be a pastor.
Wow, that makes sense.
So that's why when she had me go up and recite these scriptures and these chapters, that was kind of like what she wanted me to be, like, you know, to be a pastor. And so, like, yeah, I got beat, and it was, I mean, as embarrassing as it gets. And some years later, when I actually got into comedy, and I had my mom come to like the first show, she actually saw me perform. I was like,
okay,
like I told you, like it was almost like, here's this. I wasn't joking, and she's like, how am I supposed to know?
How am I supposed to know? Right.
You're acting a fool telling jokes in class. I'm like, yeah, you know, I get it. But so the fear, I mean, honestly, and here's how I look at it to this day. There is nothing worse than that. So if I get up on stage in front of 1,000 people and bomb, none of them were beaten in front of their friends in 6th grade. So I don't care what I tell you right now. If you laugh or don't laugh, I'm good. Right. So like that, from that's my baseline of like embarrassment. So I don't have the fear. I've never had the fear to begin with. But it's interesting because I before I even got into comedy, I was a public speaker. One of my fellow thespians in a play I was in said, hey, I have this nonprofit I work with that goes to schools and talks to kids about, you know, relationships. And I've kind of mentioned this company before called Awareness. And he was like, you should be one of our speakers. I think kids like you. You have a good rapport. You're very well spoken. And I think you could get the curriculum, and I think you could make it your own. So it's okay. You know, it was like once a week I'd do it, and work gave me time to go do it because it was, you know, for the kids, community, whatever. So I did it a couple times and really liked it. Like I would be in there for like 3 or 4 periods, talk to different kids, or do like an assembly.
Nice.
And it became to where like they wanted me to teach like a lot. Like I was getting booked for a lot of schools, and I was like, look, this is kind of getting more than just like, you know, a couple part-time gigs here and there. It's like it was starting to get full-time. So they actually said, hey, would you want to come on full-time and be a keynote speaker for us? So I left a pretty good job. I worked for the sheriff's department for like 6 years in their court services division, and left that to go do full-time public speaking.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was it that you're giving public speeches on majority of the time?
So because of my demeanor and my dynamic, they liked me to close the week. So I would usually talk on Fridays as like the main speaker, and like, you know, I'd go in. My Friday speech was usually like kind of a wrap up of everything everyone spoke about. But in that week, like there were speakers who would come in and talk about teenage pregnancy, STDs, abortion, the basics of relationships, being a teenager, a lot of just like
tough subjects.
A lot of tough subjects. So that's why they needed speakers who could, one, not only be able to deliver the curriculum, but be able to be compelling. So a lot of the speakers had stories that had to deal with those things, which made it easier to talk about. I didn't really.
Thank God, yeah, those are
right,
some dark subjects.
Exactly.
Thank God, you know, I can't relate to them. I'm just saying.
And that's one thing I said going in. Like, I don't really have a story like that. And then they were like saying, "Well, that is the story. That you don't have the story. So let us show for 4 days of people who have stories like that, and then you don't." So okay, that's
so brings to light about it, yeah.
Right. So you know, and that was cool, and I got to talk to the kids about those things, and then I helped write some of the curricula, and a lot of the stuff we did, I kind of just would throw comedy in because there were heavy topics. And as they saw that more and more, they're like, "Whoa, like I like how you're doing that. It's kind of lighting it up, like, and you're getting kids to laugh. Like teenagers are the hardest audience by far."
Yeah.
And so when they saw that I could get, you know, teenagers to laugh, and if the topic was really, you know, heavy, they actually made me a trainer. So I started training public speakers. And one of the guys I trained was a buddy of mine named Jakir, and he saw that I had a talent for making kids laugh. He had just gotten to stand-up comedy, and he's like, "Yo, you should try stand-up." And I was like, "I've done improv comedy before," and I had been in, I just mentioned the group that I was in for a while, did improv comedy, but I said stand-up's different. I said, stand-up's a whole nother animal. Improv's funny, and it's, you know, you make it up. People think that's hard, and it is hard to make it up on the spot, but there's also a grace by the audience. The audience knows you have nothing. You're completely making this up.
So are you talking about you? So you, before you actually did the stand-up comedy, you actually just did things on the spot in front of people?
Yeah, so I was in an improv comedy group for about a year or two.
Okay.
So, and that was kind of just a side thing. I never thought about doing stand-up. There was just, it kind of was a burgeon for me doing theater. It's more of a theater thing. Because in college I took theater. And this improv group was, kind of came out through that.
Okay.
Cerritos College is known for their theater. And I went to Cerritos College to study theater.
Okay.
And so the improv thing I kind of always had in my back pocket. And so when he knew that I had improv background, he said, oh, well, shoot, if you have an improv background and you're doing public speaking, that's basically stand-up comedy. And I was like, okay, if you say so. And I kind of started thinking about, okay, look, if worse comes to worse, I can improv anything. The thing about improv, you still need kind of like you
need like some type of substance.
You need a substance. You know, you need like, give me a place to be, give me this. So then I started thinking, well, if I just write jokes that kind of create, you know, those categories, those substances, those guidelines, I can always figure out if the joke's not working. I can, you know, I can twist it. So I remember writing like 4 pages of jokes because my buddy Jakira said, look, I know it's a guy who'll give you 5 minutes at a show. I'm like, okay, we'll try it. And my boss at the time said, look, if you do it, I'll do it. This guy had no comedy background whatsoever. Squarest dude. Shout out Eric Peterson. He's just like, I'm the whitest guy ever. I have no swag about me, but because I feel you would be so good at it, I'll go.
Oh wow, that's a huge support. Wow, yeah, that's a lot of support.
I'm like, well, now I got to do it.
Right.
So we went out and did this show in Studio City, and I got up, did 5 minutes, got off, and I got laughs. And the guy was like, that was really good, man. Hey, you know, he didn't know it was my first time. So he said, hey, you know what? I got some other shows coming up. If you want to get on. I said, look, I don't know if I'm going to do this again. That was my first time. And he's like, oh, you have to do it again. That was your first time? I said, yeah. I said, I've been on stage before, but I'd never done stand-up. He's like, oh, no, you got it. Like, he was like 100% blown away. And I ended up doing a few shows. Actually, my next show was at the Improv on a Saturday night, and I was like the last guy to go up. Oh, and I was essentially the headliner, which I really wasn't, but like, it was too much. It was like, this is my second show. I shouldn't be at the Improv.
But at least that point, though, was there like a 2-drink minimum or things like that?
Yeah, so
at least everyone was kind of tipsy and drunk by the time you went up there, right?
And I was dog tired.
Oh God,
I'm not a night owl, so I'm like 11 o'clock when the show started.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so it's like 12:30, and I'm like, okay, all right, when am I going up? So people have been drunk and then sobered up again.
That's the worst. That's actually the worst.
It's the worst. Oh, it was the worst. So it didn't go well. But that night, it showed me something. It's like, okay, if you really want to do this, this is the life. Like 12 o'clock at night in Hollywood with people who probably want to go home already. Do you really want to work? Do you want to do this? And yeah, so I kept going, and like it really it's interesting because a lot of people think stand-up comedy is Richard Pryor. They think it's, you know, Red Fox, but Eddie Murphy, but it's not. It's really not. It's like doing a show in Altadena in some random bookstore.
Oh, right.
That's stand-up comedy. Like that's the stuff people don't see. Like those guys have probably done 1,000 of those shows for you to see Delirious.
Man, that is
himself.
Right. Like I remember the first time I ever did an open mic. And yeah, you got a bunch of people that are there just to dog you.
Yep.
And, you know, I mean, when I was a recruiter, that's when I started doing public speaking. And just like you can only talk about, so I was a nuclear engineer recruiter. So I would give nuke presentations to science classes and math students. So it is really tough. Like you were saying, teenagers are tough to engage. So I'd put my punchlines. I'd find the one kid who's not paying attention and make fun of him. You kind of have to just to get people's attention. And so then, I went up there and I'm like, oh man, I'm funny. I could public speak. I got this. And the first time you were there, I stood up there and I'm like, uh-oh. I forget. What?
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah.
And it's you're right because people like Richard Pryor, people like Joe Rogan that go up. People already love them. They already they want them. They already have an affection for them. Sorry, can't even say the word. An affection for them. And so therefore, no matter what they say, oh, it's Joe Rogan. It's gonna say
exactly.
But now it's like, who's this Alan Kay guy talking? Like, why is he making a fart joke? You know what I mean? Why is he talking about flatulence?
Yeah,
like that's not funny.
If Chris Rock says it, it's hilarious.
Right, but if Chris Rock says it's hilarious, and that is one of the tougher things to ever.
And it's funny because I saw Chris Rock once at the Comedy Store. I was in the back hanging out with all the other comics, and then he was standing right next to me, and then he's got the most iconic voice.
He definitely does.
And I look, and I'm like, he's standing literally right next to me. My manager was right next to me. I'm like, and then he proceeds to go right on stage, and he tells the audience, "Look, y'all ain't paid $100 to see me, so you're gonna get $20, Chris Rock. You're not getting $100, Chris Rock." And he just winged it for about 10 minutes, just working on new material. And again, the crowd is laughing because it's Chris Rock. Some of the jokes weren't funny, but you can see he's working out premises and ideas and stuff. So it's like to see that and to okay, that's the goal. It's when I can just walk in and just talk. And it's just going to be funny because it's me. But I also know being in that backstage where I was, that all these other guys are putting in that work to get there. Because if it looks easy, it's because there's been so much work that's been done to make it look easy. And I've gotten that compliment once at a show where I started having an interaction with a guy in the audience. I was doing a joke about the word moist. And just how it's a funny word. It makes people feel weird and awkward. But I said, if you put it with anything, it just makes it better. And I said what the guy's name was. And his name was Mike Marshall. I said, Mike Moist Marshall just sounds better. And so we start having this dialogue, and he's got a hat on. I said, that's a moist hat. And it just was cool.
Right.
And so afterwards he gets up and he comes after me. He says, man, your set was amazing. We're just talking. We're having a dialogue. You just cracking these jokes. I says, all that is written. Everything I'm talking about that whole night, I wrote that. It's not just I'm making it up. He's like, really? I'm like, yeah. The fact that it's that smooth in the interaction we're having is because I've crafted this so many times. I've done this so many times where I don't say something or I do say something. I add this, I take this out. And he was just baffled. I said, yeah, we were having a conversation, but my conversation was words that I had been working on, phrases and ideas. So, and that I got from a audio clip I heard from Seinfeld, who talked about how he will take out a syllable, a pause, or add one. Every little breath or beat in a joke can make it hit or make it not hit. And that's the part of comedy that I love, is the writing, is the chemistry, the mixing of little this, little that, and then stir it around, and how you deliver it. Do you deliver it happy? You're giddy? Right. Are you depressed? You're sad? All that stuff it's still acting, which is my background. Is also acting. So that has been where now I'm looking at my next foray into whatever I'm doing, is how has stand-up shaped me as an entertainer overall.
So from a stand-up perspective, you just have a bunch of jokes written down, and then from what I've seen, right, is that because you have a lot of jokes, and if you guys don't know, definitely YouTube Karmel Humphreys. Yeah. He's got a lot of funny things, especially about his name, but we'll talk about that later. Yeah. But so do you have a bunch of jokes, and based on the crowd is what jokes you're gonna say, or tell me what that process is about.
100%. I always like to get to a show early and watch the people come in, and if I don't know the venue. Because I think I want to know the crowd. I want to know their tendencies, the things they lean towards, how old they are, their sentiment, all those things. Because there's jokes I won't do. If the crowd's 65 and up, I'm not going to do jokes about Twitter.
Yeah, right.
So I want to make sure my jokes fit. And some comics don't care. Sometimes, here's my 10 jokes. I'm just going to run these 10 jokes. I'm more about crafting my set to the audience. Because it's a challenge. It's hard that way. I'll never forget a show I did in Garden Grove. It was a benefit show, and I think it was for like a high school football thing or whatever. And so I'm watching the people come in, and like it's like families, it's couples, you know, it's obviously coaches, people who know each other. So there's a lot of, it's not like a crowd that doesn't know each other. You know, you go to improv or comedy store or ice house, they don't know each other, you know, one or two, you know, couples per table, but everyone knows each other here. So I'm like, okay, this is different. So I asked someone, hey, you know, who's this person over here? Or what's this person over here? Who's the coach? And I started getting into some, like, you know, some material, some tidbits to use my set. And the guy, one of the comics watching, he's like, what are you doing? And I'm studying the crowd. I'm just, you know, getting some information. He's like, why are you doing this? Because I want to craft my jokes. He's like, you craft your jokes now? I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, I have the jokes I want to do, but I'm going to tailor to the crowd. So I do my set, and then I'm able to do a joke, but then point out to Rob in the joke, or talk about Carl and how him and Mike had something similar in this joke. So I'm actually crafting a joke to the audience.
Nice.
Well, now it's beyond killing, because everyone knows Rob, and he does stuff like that. I could have just done the joke, and they would have thought, oh, Rob's like that. But I literally call Rob out. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So once the other comic saw that happen, he's like, oh. Now I get it. And like that to me just proved that that's always what I want to do. I always want to craft my set to my audience, because I have a lot of things I could talk about. But if I talk about like growing up in Compton to a bunch of people in Irvine, it might be entertaining, but like they can't really relate. Unless I do it from a contrasting point, or like, hey, you're from Irvine, I'm from Compton, let me talk about it like that. But then I have to craft that joke that way. So yeah, I think everything I do, I always try to craft the whole set about the audience. And sometimes I know there's crowds that might not get me because we're just so different. So I did a show in Idaho. I got booked to do the Boise Laugh Festival out there, and I headlined a show. So I was up for like 25 minutes. I was like, okay, I don't know a thing about Boise.
Wow, 25 minutes, so that's a long time to be on stage.
Yeah. So I said, okay, I either got to have them understand me out the gate, or just talk about how we're so different, you know? And so when I got there and realized Boise's a football town, they're big on food, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So then I can just craft my jokes to that way. But then again, I opened up with the obvious. I'm like, okay, it's just me and one bear, the only black people here in this whole city, you know? So then the crowd, okay, they get it out of the way. You know, it's funny. We get it. Like, there's no black people in Boise. So then it just allowed me to go and do my set. Because I always have to address the obvious. Like, this is not act like we know what's going on here. And then I think that allows the crowd to relax. So I think addressing the crowd, getting them on your side, always getting the women is the biggest thing. You've got to get the women on your side. Why is that? Because if the women laugh, the men will laugh. If the men laugh, it's not guaranteed the women will. Because if there's jokes that only men laugh at, you will lose the women. And then the men know who they're going home with, so they're not laughing in it. Like, oh, I'm not laughing at this guy. This guy's not funny at all, honey. No, I'm not laughing at that joke. So no, you've got to get the women first. So stuff like that, I've kind of learned that over years. Like, okay, do this, do that. And I never want to go up and disrespect any audience or the stage. So I always try to make sure I go up with that same energy every time.
Okay. So has there ever been a time where you didn't prepare yourself correctly as you thought you did, or did something just bomb like a mother? So can you talk about that? There's got to be one instance that just pops in your head.
Easily. And I know a lot of comics say, oh, everyone bombs. And I have bombed. I don't bomb a lot because I always try to prepare. I don't want to. I know some comics say it's good to bomb. I understand you learn from it, but I'd rather just be prepared. But there was a time, Laugh Factory, and I think it was a Tuesday night show. And a lot of times at Laugh Factory, you perform to get in front of Jamie Masada, who runs the Laugh Factory, who basically got all the guys their start, and he would come and watch people do their set. And so this night he's always there, so you want to kill. So I had a couple good shows previously, and I kind of came up kind of cocky. I'll be honest with you. I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna knock this out. I don't think I went through my set. I think I kind of just was gonna run the same set I ran like a couple nights before, where I killed. Man, it was just crickets.
Crickets every single time.
Every joke was just like, what am I doing? And I realized as soon as I got off stage what happened. I wasn't telling that, because for me, I've always looked at jokes like this. There's whatever I'm about to tell you was funny to me at one point in my life, whether it was just a couple days ago or years, whatever. This thing was funny to me. and I have X amount of seconds to get you to where that was for it to be funny for you. So I have to quickly get you up to speed about this thing and then tell you the funny thing.
Right.
So it's always like a surprise or reveal. This night I was just telling the joke.
Oh, so like no setup, no nothing.
It was just
punchline.
There was no more energy. It wasn't. I was just mouthing it, like walking through it, and there was no like discovery to the joke, and it just kept just landing flat. I was like,
so you're just up there saying words, no body language with it,
no,
and everything.
Yeah,
because what they say, like 80% of communication is your body language, and there's a lot of, and I remember you pointed this out to me. There's a lot of comedians that aren't actually funny, but their presence on stage is so funny, that no matter what they say, now it's just hilarious.
Well, like Kevin Hart is a walking meme.
Right.
Like he's just a meme. He just does anything. There's not a joke to that, but you know that gif. You've seen that just making those eyes or his feet dangling or whatever. So it's just stuff that Kevin Hart does now with his body, or Jim Carrey before him, where they just naturally, the joke is their body.
Right.
And there are some comics who sit in the pocket and just tell a joke, mic stand, and they just deliver jokes. That night, I wasn't either one. I wasn't in the pocket. I wasn't doing anything. I was just saying these words. And they just didn't hit. And that to me was like, okay, I will never do that again. I'll never just.
When was this?
This was probably year 1 or 2. It was early on.
Year 1 to 2.
Early on. And again, I had a modicum of success. So I felt like, when my first set, I got rave reviews. And then the next show I did, I'm at the freaking Improv.
So you're just like, I'm a savant for comedy.
Right, exactly. It's totally like, this guy. Sixth grade, I was killing you guys. You guys are behind. I remember my 3rd or 4th show was in a contest called Uncle Clyde's at the Ice House, and I took 2nd. And everyone said I should have took 1st, but the person who took 1st actually should have been disqualified. She did something that was illegal. She actually performed a song. And it was like a show-stopping song. So the crowd just voted for her because it was such a big deal, but it wasn't a real joke. So anyway, I felt like I won.
Not bitter about it at all.
No,
not
I
at all.
remember it to this day. Exactly.
I would never remember that day,
right, but
November 19th.
So that's like right. So that was like the 4th show I ever did. I took 2nd in the comedy contest, and I got voted to the next round of this thing. So again, I was doing well. So it was obvious I had talent, but then that night where I bombed, I was letting the talent just take over. Like I didn't put any work into it. And so then every time since then, that's when I will always write. I will always think about the set, the stage. I'll pray. I'll think every little show. I don't care if it's a small show or a big show. I always put the same energy into, like, I want to bless the crowd. I want to bless the stage. I want to bless the venue, all that.
Right.
Because I don't want to feel like that again. I don't ever want to feel that again. And moving forward, there's not been a time where I say I bombed. There's some shows you do, not everyone laughs, but it could be whatever reason. But to me, and again, I bombed and I learned. So that's why a lot of comics say it's good to bomb, because you learn. I don't need to learn that again.
Right.
I got that lesson.
And that's the one thing I've always appreciated about your stage presence is that, like you said, I don't care if it's 10,000 people or it's just one, you're going to make that show great for whoever is there no matter what. And if you guys have never seen Karmel perform, every time he is on stage, he definitely kills it for whoever is out there, makes it about them. Like if Scott and Lily are the only people in the crowd, every joke is going to be about Scott and Lily,
right?
And it's very, very good, because I mean, I've definitely, performed with you on like really small venues, the Lab and Time on Costa Mesa.
Yeah.
And there might be like 3 people there, but you're just chucking and trucking. It doesn't even matter. You feel like you're at the Improv, or you feel like you're at the Ice House, and it doesn't even matter.
And I think it should be that way. Like, I know a lot of comics have come to shows like that and like almost feel offended.
Like, why did you take me here? Why did you invite me?
Yeah, like I'm like, what? Like this is where you work. This is where you actually learn. Like, if I can make 200 people laugh that paid to come to a comedy show, well, I'm just being a comic. That's whatever. Right. They're supposed to laugh. But if I can make 5 people in a half indoor outdoor mall who just got some pop bars and decided to stop and listen to me for a second, if I can make them laugh, well, now I know I'll kill.
Right.
So that's how I look at it. Like, if I go to a bar show or a comic, I've done comic book stores, I've done coffee stores. I mean, just random places. If I can go in there and get people who are not there to laugh, They're focused on something else. If I can get them to laugh, well, now I know this joke at a place where they're supposed to laugh, they'll laugh beyond, the normal laughter. So I never look at a crowd and justify my, what do you call
like your crowd presence or
it didn't work because of this is going on. Right. Yeah, I hate when comics say, "Oh, it's the crowd."
And I think with those small, intimate, settings, like those people are more inept to not only like follow your career because it was more intimate for them, but also for them to tell their friends and spread. Like, yo, I saw Karmel Humphreys when he just had 4 people in the crowd, and now look, he's at headlining at wherever.
Yeah, I've gotten followers like that who are like, "Oh, I saw this guy at such and such a spot," and then like actually following because I made it about them.
Right. So now with that though, with big crowds, small crowds, what has been like your favorite time that you actually like? If there's like one like Karmel, what was that? Not only like your favorite performance or where you got the most, but just the most epic performance time that you ever had.
So there's 2 that come to mind.
Okay.
One was about this time, I want to say 2 years ago. So a place where I first really cut my teeth doing comedy was at my buddy's restaurant called Wahib's in Alhambra.
Okay.
And I met him probably year 2, and I got it was because I got tired of going to the Laugh Factories or spots like that trying to get time, because you go and you wait and you sign something and then they call you, and like it's a hassle to get like time at some of these stores, Comedy Store, Laugh Factory. So I talked to someone about doing my own show. So Buddy introduced me to this. My friend Numi, who owned a restaurant and like a banquet hall. So we started doing shows there. And every month we'd have like 70, 80 people show up to this show. And that's really where I learned how to perform and how to host. And the show got really, honestly, I didn't know of people doing comedy shows at restaurants prior to then. Now I see them everywhere. So I kind of feel like it was I kind of started something. But it could have been gone. I just didn't notice it. But when that show kind of died down, a friend of mine asked me, "Hey, can I do a show there?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it's not mine, but he's like, "Yeah, but like, the show's kind of been yours." And I said, "I haven't done the show there in a while, so, do what you got to do." So he wanted to do a Christmas show at the spot. And he said, "Can I book you on that show?" I said, "Well, I'm actually booked at the Queen Mary that night. But Queen Mary's like right up from the 710. When I'm finished, I'll come up and I'll do a guest spot."
Nice.
Cool. So I performed the Queen Mary. I start heading up to Alhambra. I get there and I see 2 comics outside the venue. And like, "Oh, Karmel's here. What's up, bro?" I say, "Oh, what's going on? How's it going?" He's like, it's not going well." I'm like, "Wait, what do you mean?" Like, "Go in and check." So I walk in. There's 4 people there.
Oh, no.
There's no one at this show.
Oh, God.
The host is on and it's dark. It's like there's no music going. I'm like,
"Oh, God.
What the heck's going on?" As soon as I walk in, he's like, "Oh, Karmel's here." And I'm like,
uh-oh. Can't even walk out now. You got to stay there.
Yeah, I'm like, I promised him a guest spot. So I go in there and I walk up. The wait staff's there and they kind of know me. And they know our shows were never like this. It was packed every night. And they're kind of like whatever. So I walk on stage and I cannot tell you what I talked about. But I did an hour and a half.
An hour and a half?
Hour and a half.
Oh,
I remember getting a look from my buddy Numi. He was on the thing. He's like, he gave me this look. He's like, he points to his watch. And I'm like, oh. Honestly, that was a I don't care moment if ever one. Like, I didn't care.
Nice.
Like, I'm like, I got nothing to lose here. This show, there's nothing. This show is just crap. So I got on and just talked about something. I remember a couple of things. I remember talking about names. I did a joke about my name, and it kind of spurred another couple of jokes. But I was just ripped. I just didn't care.
Nice.
And it was like an hour and a half of just talking. And everyone was into it. And the other comics started coming in. The wait staff started sitting down. And I was like, okay, that was me, a moment where I learned to not care as much. Because I did it inadvertently. Because I'm like, who cares? There's nothing here. Like, I'm not going to do material. I'm just going to talk. But that hour and a half just flew. It just flew by. So that's one. The other time, I would say, there was a show. It was for TV. I was taping for TV for Fox.
Okay.
And it was the first time I had ever done TV or anything. It was a big setup, a big production. and we're filming in Pachanga. And I remember doing my set. It was just like 5 minutes. And this is where you have to be in the box. So like you can't move because they're filming. So I remember getting up, and I remember, again, back to the time where I bombed, where I was just telling jokes, and I didn't really move much, but I couldn't. So I was thinking, okay, what I got to do is like, and I'm used to acting. So a lot of the things I learned was coming into this one moment. So anyway, I did my set. The producer yells from the back after we cut. I film, crowd laughs, they cut. He's like, that's going straight on air. He's yelling from the back, running up to thing. That's going straight to production. Like he's that excited about my set. And I was just like, my manager's like freaking out. And I'm like, wow, okay. And this hit, and that guy who I still work with from time to time, Steve Hofstetter, is a big time comedian, and he does a lot of stuff for Fox and others. And he's like, yo, that was amazing. Funny thing was, it didn't get aired.
Oh no, I was about to say, how do I find this?
So I did air for Fox. So Fox has put some of my material up, so you can see some of my jokes. But that particular set did not make it because one of the jokes I did, they thought was kind of risque. And what's funny about it is Steve said if I didn't yell and make so much stink about your set, they probably wouldn't have looked at it so much. Because he was so hyped about it and he talked about it so much, they kind of went over with like a fine-tooth comb and found a couple of things. I'm like, this is Fox. I mean, you guys look all kinds of stuff on there.
Yeah, you guys put some big.
And I don't do risque material.
Right.
Right. So I was like, really? He's like, yeah. So he was just kind of like upset. But that show and that 5 minutes was like, okay, all this is probably in year 6 or 7. That kind of led me up to this point where I have 5 minutes to kill it. And we're recording, and there's a crowd here, and there's Fox and TV, and it was hot. The place was, I mean, literally hot. There's like 20 lights like this. It was just so hot. Man. And to have him react to my set like that, I didn't care that it didn't make it. Because like honestly, it's like his reaction and the crowd's reaction was enough to validate what I was doing. And so those 2 times, again, no one in the crowd versus filming for TV. Right. It's like, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome that you have an appreciation for like those 2 moments. Like you're saying, the 2 moments, one with the small crowd, one with the huge crowd, and the publicity doesn't matter. It's because of the crowd. Yeah. So now, with that being said, let's say young Alan K came up to you again and said, hey, I want to do stand-up comedy. What kind of advice would you give me to like say, what was like the one key thing that makes you perform so well on stage? So performing with a comic who told me that you have to have fun first before the crowd has fun. And he's the kind of comic, so I'll save his name because I want to explain what he does. He writes down all his jokes on a spreadsheet. And he's that meticulous about his jokes. And he's like an Excel spreadsheet.
An Excel spreadsheet. And it has tabs and pivot tables. And I'm like, wow, what? Because he says, yeah, because I don't want to perform this joke at this venue again if I did this there. And so he has a whole mindset about, again, not going over jokes again, giving something new to the audience, what worked, what didn't work. So this whole spreadsheet. But he says the biggest thing about all this is I have to have fun. So, because he's an analytical person. He knows that about himself. I kind of see that in you. You're very into your writing. You're very into performing it. But if you're not having fun, the crowd isn't having fun. So I said, okay. That was the second time I'd heard something like that. Another comic buddy of mine named Romerick, B1 Anderson, shout out to B1. He said, it seems like you just want to be the smartest guy in the room. And I was like, huh? He's like, yeah. He says, your jokes are hilarious. They're so well written, but it feels like you're just trying to show people how smart you are. And I was like, oh, that's not what I want. Right. So those 2 pieces of feedback helped me determine, like, okay, why is this fun for me? Like, why do I enjoy revealing things? If it's smart things, like I've did a joke about, I remember being at a show and my manager said, yeah, remember when Romerick told you about not being so smart? Stop doing such smart jokes. And I was angry. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, your jokes are going over people's heads. And I'm like, I don't believe that. So I was so angry that night that I did a set of jokes just to piss him off.
Wow.
And I told the audience, hey, my manager, I literally said this on stage. I said, my manager thinks my jokes goes over people's head. Like, I'm too smart for you guys. And I think you guys are a smart crowd. You guys are a smart crowd. You guys got in the first couple of jokes, which they did. And yeah. And I go, you guys understand that it's weird that monosyllabic it's monosyllabic. It has multiple syllables, right? That's funny, right? Nothing.
Oh.
And I'm like, palindrome, you guys. Palindrome is not a palindrome. That's weird, right? Nothing.
Oh.
And I'm like, okay, I guess he was right.
Oh.
They start dying.
Well, oh, no,
So I'm like,
there you
okay.
go.
I'm like, so it was funny.
That's
because
actually pretty good.
It
yeah.
was right. So inadvertently, the joke worked and it didn't work. And so after my set, a guy in the audience came up to me. It was the guy I was pointing to. He thought I was talking directly to him. He came up to me and says, bro, I'm so sorry. I had no idea what monosyllabic meant. I'm sorry, bro. I said, no, it's okay. It wasn't.
But it's like tatted across his chest now. Like,
right,
monosyllabic. Look at this damn word.
Yeah, guys, one syllable, but multiple, right?
You don't want to see me on Scrabble, bro. I know this monosyllabic.
Work with friends. I kill it. I don't have no friends.
Palindrome.
Right. So that was just showing me it wasn't so much that I was telling smart things, but it was how, when I was engaging the audience, how I was having fun with them, that's what made things work. So my biggest advice, and I even told this to you, I think the second or third time you were up, is don't be a comedian.
That's right.
Because I think a lot of comics try to be a comedian. Like, hey, guys, and they do what they think they've seen 100 people do.
Right.
And I'm like, those aren't the guys people remember. People remember George Carlin. They remember Red Fox. They remember Jim Gaffigan, because maybe they don't do what all other comics do. They're being Jim Gaffigan. So be you. Like, don't be a comedian. Get up there and just show the crowd who you are, and in a funny way.
Right.
So that's the biggest piece of advice.
So is it now? What I'm gauging out of this is that you love comedy. Is that, like, it's not the validation part. It's that you're having fun, but you're also connecting out with people on a regular basis. Yeah. Would you say that's what your biggest love of comedy is? Or?
Yeah, definitely. Because I think I have a lot of things I like to talk about and share that are kind of weird to me. I'm kind of observational. I do jokes about things that don't make sense. Like palindrome not being a palindrome. If people don't know what palindrome is, it's a word that's spelled backwards and forwards like radar, and palindrome is not. So anyway, things like that make me laugh, and so I want to kind of reveal those to people, and then make them laugh about it. So that's what I've learned. It's like, okay, how would I reveal to you that the word sevens is odd, but in the middle of the word,
it's even.
It's even. Stuff like that. Like, that's, how do I make you laugh? How do I get you to understand that that's so freaking weird? And so that's why I've kind of now learned that it doesn't matter how many people are in the crowd. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000 or if it's one. Someone's going to get to be revealed a little bit of who Karmel is today. And that should always be great. Human interaction, human connection should be the greatest thing we experience.
Right.
If you're up there looking for validation and you don't get it, then you just missed out.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I remember, like, the first time I ever went on stage, I was trying to make people laugh instead of just being myself, and you could tell. And I remember, like, watching myself and like on film, I'm like, what am I doing? Like this, I mean, I feel uncomfortable just even thinking about it. So how am I going to expect anybody else to laugh?
Right.
So yeah, that is definitely true. So I guess that brings me to another side, because I think you're a phenomenal comedian, right? And I'm not saying that just because you're a personal friend, but I honestly think you're great, right? So I would love to go to your show every time when I get the chance.
Sure.
So now, I guess what I guess separates you from being kind of like, you're on the radar, but not like on the radar. Because there's some people got some Netflix specials, and I'm not going to say any comedians' names because they might watch this episode and be like, man, F that Alan K guy.
Right.
But, like, I wonder, like, what does it take, I guess, for you to finally get like a Netflix special, or for you to get on that giant stage, and if that even is a goal to you?
Sure. Right. It is. I think the Netflix special is like the new standard for making it now. But there are guys out there who don't have Netflix specials who did their own specials. A buddy of mine, Tony Baker, he talks about it all the time. He's like, I know I don't have a Netflix special, but I recorded my own. You can go see it. You can go buy it.
Nice.
I know also Louis C.K. did that, where he created his own special, then sold it on his website. So to your point about how there's people who have Netflix specials that maybe aren't your cup of tea, or maybe aren't even that famous, there's a lot of politicking. There's some comics out there who I won't say their name, but you know, I've heard a lot. Oh, they're young and they're talented and they're the new thing, and I'm like, are they funny? What does them being young have to do with anything? Right. Like I've heard that a lot. Like, because someone's young and funny, that makes them more marketable or better than me. But I'm like, are they funny? Period. Like, so I started comedy when I was, you know, in my 30s. So Dave Chappelle started when he was 14. Okay, whatever. But like, are you funny? That's really all that matters right now is, are you funny? So I think the next step for me, and I've kind of looked at this in different ways, is do I set myself up to be a 15, 20 year circuit comic to get to that point? Because a lot of comics will tell you it's 10 years before you get, you know, your big break, or before you even learn about yourself, before you get your voice. And I'm like, I think I can probably speed that up. I can amplify that doing different things. Because also I kind of came in with a voice. And I did improv, I did acting. So that's also why, and I don't fool myself. My first time being on stage was not my first time on stage. It's my first time doing stand-up. So I know that's why I performed better than someone who's never done anything. But I think for me now, it's finding out what makes me different in terms of being marketable. Like I know, like Ali Wong just got like a big deal for her next special. Right. But she obviously, you look at her and listen to her, she's marketable. You can see why. Very much so. So that's my thing. It's like, okay, there's a lot of black comics out there. There's a lot of male black comics. But are they all saying things that I'm saying? No. So that's my thing, is how do I get my perspective, my point of view out to people in a way that's like, because Netflix and them, they want numbers. They want to know that if they put a special out, people are going to watch it. So you almost kind of have to go on this side of town, do something that people, oh, we like this guy for Netflix. Okay, then we'll give him a special.
So it's like, how do you? I guess that what I'm hearing is this kind of struggle with between finding yourself to be marketable, but also still being yourself at the same time. Yeah. And I feel like, you're right. And I feel like that is kind of tough, you know, because it's like you're saying there's a lot of black comedians. But I mean, I could definitely tell you're not the average black comedian. Like, you don't say just black jokes 24/7. Right. And no, and I can imagine that is kind of tough. You know, just hey, I do want to be marketable, but I don't want to lose who I am in the process of it. Yes. And so you don't want to be a sellout, because as soon as you're up there, like, man, I remember Karmel when he's performing, there was only 4 people in the crowd, and now he won't do that. Like, what the hell, you know? Right. And I know for you as a person, and me knowing you, that's not you. So I can imagine that's kind of tough. So I feel like, is it just as tough? I guess because that's the rumor about the music industry, where they got a lot of talent, but a lot of people don't. I mean, one of my friends is a phenomenal music producer, and I remember him telling me, like, half the people he works with doesn't have shit for talent. Yep. But and I wonder if that's the same thing. You're just waiting for that big break, random networking that you got to just get yourself into, and maybe just be ready for it.
And some people will just go a different route. You know, I know a lot, like I mentioned, Tony Baker. I know some of the comics go the sketch route, do a lot of sketches, and, you know, let's build my social media presence up in sketch. And then they become headliners on stand-up tours because they have a big social media following. Then there's guys like, you know, King Karan and King Batch, Big Ja, who I know pretty well. A lot of these guys who do videos and they're showing their comedic talent that way. Some guys don't go back to stand-up. Some guys don't even do stand-up anymore. They're like, you know, I'm doing so well in this venue, there's no need for me to do stand-up. And then there's people who just love stand-up. A buddy of mine, Paul, Smokey Dees, who's just a stand-up fiend. Like, that's what he does. Like, he tours the country doing stand-up, and he's unapologetic about it. Like, he's like, he if you talk to him about it, he can't stand the other cats who just, you know, kind of floss and act like they're stand-up comedians. They aren't putting the work in. Right. So I find myself kind of like in the middle. And I think, you know, because I come from an acting background and theater, I still like being on stage or being in front of a camera. But there's a pureness, there's a rush about being in front of an audience, and you have 15, 12, 18 minutes of their undivided attention. It's just, there's something about it. I've walked on some stages and I've not talked for like 10 seconds, just to stare at the crowd for a minute. Oh, wow. Because to me, it's fascinating. Like, you're here just to listen to people talk. Wow, yeah. And of course, and this is something I learned and taught in public speaking, is people are afraid of silence. I'm not. I love it. I embrace it. So when I did that, or whenever I do that, people pay attention more. They're like, and they're waiting for something. And then you're like, hey, and then that just incites laughter. Yeah. Like, why? Like, that fascinates me in the human mind. Like, why did you laugh at me not talking and then just saying, hey? Like, why is that funny? You know? So I've learned to like just embrace all that and get into that. And you can't get that anywhere else. So that's why I'll never stop doing stand-up, even though I might get involved in other things. And the Netflix special comes, it comes. If it doesn't, I'll do my own.
So what's your, what's your future plan? What's your vision for yourself as a stand-up comedian? And then moving forward with that?
I think right now, I'm kind of in the middle. Like you mentioned, like I'm kind of on the radar. People know me. Comics know me. The general public does. I don't have thousands of followers yet. So I'm kind of like, do I really push the stand up more or go more back to acting? So I've kind of gone more into the acting side. Mm-hmm. You know, I've talked to a couple people, some things I've written, some things I want to produce. And I have a couple things I've written that are in front of some people that want to take on it and do it. One is called a cartoon I wrote some years ago about a group of Chetteral agents.
Chetteral agents.
Chetteral agents.
That just cheddar as in cheese?
Exactly.
Okay.
The cartoon is called Government Cheese. So I wrote a cartoon called Government Cheese some years ago, and everyone I pitched it to, they're like, "This is freaking phenomenal."
Oh my god.
And I had someone do an animatic for me, which is basically like a cartoon prop of the cartoon, and I'm pitching it right now, trying to get that out to some people. And a couple other comedic things, movies and things I want to do. Because I think, again, it's a quick way to get in front of people. Uh-huh. So if it's funny and people like it, that kind of jumps the waiting game. You know, if you can put your own content out there and people like it. Kind of like Issa Rae did with Insecure. You know, Awkward Black Girl. She filmed her own thing, put it out there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And
right.
HBO was like, oh, we need that. And then she just kind of jumped past all that, you know, red tape and bureaucracy and the weight game and paying your dues and all that. It's like, okay, if you're funny, you're funny. If you got talent, you got talent. So that's kind of the route I'm thinking I'm going to go now. Because I've done the 6-7 years of doing stand-up, so I know the game.
Right.
Do I need to do another 7 to prove that I can do it? Or can I do something else to kind of show you my other worth and then kind of bring it all together? So that's kind of the next foray. Is like, let's do some things in front of the camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a wrap on that.
All right.
I appreciate you sharing your comedy.
Oh, for sure, man. For sure.
Yeah. And
so be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, be on the lookout for Karmel. And don't be on the lookout for me because I stopped doing stand-up because I realized real bad I'm not good at it. Because we'll go back on that. But
we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Anyways. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Have a blessed weekend. And, deuce.
Late.